Hello, and welcome to Foundations for Algebra, Unit 4A, Lesson 10. Today, scholars are going to find the volume of composite figures. The volume of composite figures. Okay, so first of all, what is a composite figure? So it's just a figure that's made up of different shapes. You can see here we have a rectangular prism that has a hemisphere, half a sphere missing from it. Here we have one rectangular prism with another rectangular prism attached. Over here we have a cone with a hemisphere on it. So a hemisphere is just half of a sphere, and we will look at the volume formula for that as part of this. In order to find the volume of these, you just take the shapes and add them together. So in this case, I would add this prism and this prism together. For this one over here, I would take this rectangular prism and I would subtract the hemisphere. Here, I'm going to take the cone and I'm going to add the hemisphere. All you do is add or subtract to find the volume of the shape that you have. So let's look first at this figure. So I have a cone and I have a hemisphere. So my cone, and I'm going to do each part separately and then add them together. My cone, remember, the formula is 1/3, I was to divide by 3. So pi times my radius squared times my height divided by 3. So here's my radius of 6, here's my height of 15. So pi times 6 squared times 15 divided by 3. So pi, 6 squared is 36. Times 15 divided by 3. So 36 times 15 gives me 540. So I have 540 pi divided by 3. And here I'm just going to do 540 divided by 3 first, which gives me 180 pi. And remember, we can get that a little more exact by just multiplying that times 3.14. So that gives me my cone has a volume of 565.2. I also have a hemisphere. That is half of a sphere on top of it. So, for my hemisphere, a hemisphere is half of a sphere. So remember, our sphere formula was pi times the radius cubed times 4/3. So half of 4/3 is 2/3. So this one's going to be 2/3 times, and remember I just extended that line, pi times my radius cubed. So here my radius is still 6. So it is 2 times pi times 6 cubed divided by 3. So it is 2 times 216 times pi divided by 3. 2 times 216 gives me 432 pi divided by 3. We're going to divide 432 by 3. That's 144 pi. And I'm just going to multiply that, 144 times 3.14. to give me 452.16. So we're just going to add these two numbers to get our total volume. So when we add these numbers, we have 452.16 plus 565.2 gives us a total volume of 1,017.36. Not that bad. It just takes some practice to get through all the different shapes. Here, I have a cube. I know because all of the dimensions are the same, with a hemisphere on top. So cube, remember, the cube is just length times width times height, or the side length cubed. So here is just 8 to the 3rd power. So 8 times 8 times 8 gives me 512. So that's 512. That one's pretty easy. My hemisphere has a radius of 4. I know that because the entire diameter would be 8. So the radius is 4. So my hemisphere, I can't spell it. My hemisphere is, remember, 2/3 pi times my radius cubed. My radius is 4. 4 cubed is 64. So I have 2 times 64 times pi divided by 3. 2 times 64 is 128 pi divided by 3. 128 divided by 3 is 42.666666. We're going to multiply that. So I have 42.67 times pi, which we're going to do 3.14, gives me 133.98. Okay, and then we just have to go ahead and add our cube plus our hemisphere. So I'm just going to do 512 plus 133.98. I'm just going to add those. 8, 9, this is a 5, a 4, and a 6. So 645.98 is my final answer. Well, here is another one I want you to see. In this case, I have a cylinder, but it's missing. Like someone took a scoop out of the top of it. So I'm missing a hemisphere. So in this case, I'm actually going to end up subtracting. So let's look at this. So first, let's find the volume of our cylinder. And you notice you're using all these different formulas, right? So cylinder was just pi radius squared times the height. So we need to look at our radius is not 6, it is 3. So pi times 3 squared times 11. So pi times 9 times 11. Oop, that wasn't an 11. Which is just 99 pi. Remember, pi is 3.14, so 99 times 3.14 gives us approximately 310.86. But now we're going to need to subtract our hemisphere. So our hemisphere is 2/3 of pi times my radius cubed, 3 cubed. So 2 times 27 times pi divided by 3. 2 times 27 is 54 pi divided by 3, which is 18 times pi. So 18 times 3.14 gives me 56.52. Now I'm going to subtract these because the sphere is not part of it. It's like they scooped it out. So I have 310.86 minus 56.52. Put that in your calculator. 310.86 minus 56.52 gives me 254.34 as the final volume. Well, let's look at this one last problem. In the real world, a hemisphere, of course, is 1/2 of a sphere. The top of the silo, this is a silo, you might see those on a farm, is a hemisphere with a radius of 12 feet. So my radius here is 12. What is the volume of the silo? Okay, so we have two different shapes here. We have a hemisphere on top, and then underneath that, we have a cylinder. We have a cylinder, okay? Oops, meant to do that with a pen. So we have a cylinder with a hemisphere on top. The problem is I know the total height. I do not know the height of this silo. So this silo, this part of it right here is separate from this part. This part is 12 feet, so this is a hemisphere, so this dimension's also 12. So we're going to subtract 12 from 52 to get this height is 40. Okay, so let's do our hemisphere first. So our hemisphere is 2/3 pi times my radius, which is 12 cubed. So 12 cubed gives me, so I have 2 times pi times 1,728 divided by 3. So that is 3,456 divided by, pi, forgot the pi, divided by 3. So I'm going to divide the 3,456 divided by 3 gives me 1,152 times pi. When I multiply that times 3.14, I simply get 3,617.28 as the volume of the hemisphere. And then I still need to find the volume of the cylinder. Remember, cylinders are not that hard. Cylinders are just pi times the radius squared times the height. So this is, I have pi times 12 squared times my height of 40. 40. So I have 144, which is 12 squared, times pi times 40. So 144 times 40 gives me 5,760 times pi. When I multiply that times 3.14, gives me 18,000, oops, it's a comma, 86.4. Now I'm just going to add those to get my total. My total is going to be 3,617.28 plus 18,086.4 gives me a total of 21,703.68. Okay, so go ahead and look at this and finish your work in class. I will see you later.